Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CHK MIT Joint Workshop on E-Learning and Big Data. I'm Gloria Chen, the MC of today's event. We are pleased to have with us the following officiating guests: Professor Joseph Sum, Vice Chancellor and President of CHK. Mr. Patrick Green, Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees and Chairman of the Board of Directors. Professor Benjamin Wang, Provost of CHK. Mr. Ian Yu, Trustee and Project Representative, Dr. Stanley Ho, Medical Development Foundation. We are also delighted to have 4 distinguished speakers from MIT and CHK to address the workshop today. We will invite Professor Benjamin Wang, Provost of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to give us an opening address. Professor Wang, please.
Distinguished professors from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Vice Chancellor, Mr. Patrick Yun, distinguished guests and colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to be able to invite 4 distinguished speakers from MIT who are movers and shakers in our field to present at the CHK MIT Joint Workshop on E-Learning and Big Data. To all of you, let me extend my warmest welcome to the Chinese University of Hong Kong. The idea of organizing this workshop emerged from a visit by the CHK delegation to MIT and edX in last June. After the visit, CHK invited MIT to gather a team of faculty members to visit with us to discuss the future of education as afforded by new technologies in e-learning, which generates big data that allow us to understand learners' behavior. To this end, I wish to thank our distinguished speakers from the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory for generously sharing their rich experience and insights with us. They are Professor Victor Su, Delta Electronics Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, Professor Steve Ward, Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, Professor Chris Turman, Director of Academics, Ethics, and Professor Bob Miller, Associate Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department. From their talks, we'll hear about how algorithmic thinking should be injected into our education, how new pedagogies can enhance learning at scale on the MOOC, our massively online open courses platform, how learning at scale generates big data, therefore our observation at scale, to understand learners' behavior that would benefit even small group teaching, as well as how to develop automatic content processing and search technologies to facilitate learning. In addition, our program also includes an interdisciplinary lineup of speakers from CHK to augment this workshop's coverage on education with perspectives from different disciplines. You will hear about the latest developments in CHK's new Big Data Research Initiative, our educators' unique perspectives on technology-mediated learning, on social scientists' view on how e-learning can facilitate education across disciplines and across cultures, and how big education to realize scale education at any time, anywhere, on any device. Most importantly, I'd like to thank Mr. Patrick Yun, CHK Honorary Fellow and Vice Chairman of the Sir Stanley Ho Medical Development Foundation, as well as his colleagues, Mr. Ian Yun and Mr. Katie Kun, for offering us the strongest support in co-organizing this workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the university, may I welcome you again to this workshop. I'm certain that this time we will spend here will be very productive, and the fruits it bear will will benefit the developments of e-learning with the use of big data for our future education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wang. Today's workshop is co-organized with the Dr. Stanley Ho Medical Development Foundation. May we invite Mr. Ian Green, trustee and corporate representative of the foundation, to give a welcome address.
They say the mark of a good presentation is always never talk right after someone with more credentials than yours, but unfortunately I've been put to speak by Professor Wang. And so my name is Ian. I'm from the trustee of the Dr. Stanley Medical Development Foundation. And so we are the proud sponsors of this workshop. And so when Professor Lane told us that they want to do this joint workshop at CHK with MIT, we said yes, definitely, because the mission of the foundation really is the betterment of the human condition through medical research and education. And so this e-learning is very consistent with our mission. And I actually, in order to illustrate how this is so serendipitously consistent, I wrote a piece, mainly because as a foundation we have nothing as high-tech with MIT, so we have to go very low-tech. So this is, before ball pen, this is just brush. And this is by the educator, Zhang Zhang, a Northern Song educator, and he said, I'm going to use Cantonese because you travel for so long, you're supposed to be subjected to Cantonese Mandarin after such a long flight. Well, he did not. So putting the soul into heaven and earth, when someone not many, giving the purpose to the living, when Wang is in hall. The computer doesn't like my calligraphy. When Wang is in hall, to continue the lost teachings, or the teachings of the past ages, when man sang to create, to beget 10,000 generations of peace and prosperity. And we believe that the only way to accomplish this, of Mr. Zhang, Master Zhang, 1,000 years ago, is through learning, education. Because just to quote one more person, John Dewey. John Dewey was the Columbia professor, was the professor of Hu Shi, the Chinese philosopher. What's interesting about him is, because we are in the spirit of the US and China cooperation today, Professor Dewey actually gave the series of lectures in 1919 in Peking University that sparked off the intellectual revolution. And he said, education is not the preparation for life. Education is life itself. And so in order to put Masters Zhang and Dewey together to create this, education is of vital importance. But you look at both of what they're saying, it's not just education, it's education on a mass scale. And in order to do that, you have to put the E before the learning. And that's why we're very, very excited about this workshop. And just to quote one more person, Mark Twain, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So let's begin.
Thank you, Mr. Green. To commemorate this special moment, may I invite the following guests for a group photo? Mr. Patrick Green, Mr. Ian Green, Mr. Katie Boone, Director of Operations, Dr. Stanley Ho Medical Development Foundation, Mr. Joseph Zhang, Professor Joseph Zhang, Professor Benjamin Wang, Professor Victor Xu, Delta Electronics Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, MIT, Professor Steve Ward, Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, MIT, Professor Chris Charman, Director of Academics, MIT Ethics, Professor Rob Miller, Full Professor of MIT, Professor Hao Tai, Pro Vice Chancellor of CHK, Professor Alvin Learn, Dean of Faculty of Education, CHK, and Professor Helen Mann, Director, Stanley Ho Big Data Analytic Research Center, CHK. Professor Chi Yun Chiu, Dean of Faculty of Social Science, CHK.
Okay.
our first session of today's workshop.